guys, what's up? It's Sean, Autotopia LA, and as always, we are bringing you something unique, man. This, I bet a bunch of you have seen this before on TV, Overhaulin, other places. This is a 1971 Lotus Europa. I mean, I had a matchbox of this car when I was a little kid. This is such a cool car to have here. I am absolutely in love with what Foose and his team did on this car. And we're gonna dig in heavy. John, the owner, brought it over for us to shoot. We're gonna go through what the build process was, what his history with this car is, and then we are definitely going for a drive. So hold on, because here we go, man. All right, you guys, so here's John, the owner of this badass 71 Lotus Europa, and we're gonna dig in on this one because I know, like from talking already, there's a lot of history prior to Foose and company getting their hands on this. So tell it, like you said you raced this thing for...
I did. I vintage raced it in the 80s and 90s. I bought it for $1,500 bucks. God. And it was one of those, I was looking for a vintage race car. The guy next door drove up with it, had a burnt valve, and he had taken it in trade from the original owner and he didn't even want it. So he's like, every day I'd offer him like $500. Next day it was 1,000. When they had 15, he said, sold.
Done.
And it was mine. No one, I stripped it down.
Yeah.
Redid the trans, the engine, suspension, and then took it out racing just for fun. Stripped all the interior. Did that forever, and then of course kids come and a little more responsibility, and it kind of got tucked away, and I decided to start maybe driving it on the weekends.
All right, so you have it, you vintage race it, you tuck it away for years.
Yeah.
Then now you pull it back out, and then how did Overhaulin find out about your car?
Well, funny enough, as I was giving a friend of mine's son a ride right over here on Chermack, right in front of Jay's gate, and I blew the engine up. I missed a shift coming around that corner, and boom, and it just I idled it into his driveway. My buddy David Kalaki, who was on Overhaulin in 06, he says, well, take it to my shop, you know, you'll never work on it. And we pulled the engine out, and I started doing some stuff to the engine, and from there, it kind of blossomed to his son was interested in it. It was a toy. I traded it to him. Basically, I thought I traded it to him for a set of wheels for my Camaro. I said, your dad's tight with Chip. Have him give me some wheels for my Camaro. We'll call it a day. I gave him the pink, and I thought that was it. But they had other plans, apparently. So they
got it.
Yeah, so they had it. I thought it was gone, so I didn't miss it for a year. I mean, it's not mine, right? So didn't miss it, and they called my wife like a week before they actually did the reveal, so she didn't even know.
Wow, man.
And she thought that was great because she had trouble keeping the secret for a week. Apparently, she said, oh, it was tough to just keep it. And then, of course, she had to call everybody we know to meet us down, and down here at, it was like 6 in the morning. They had to all show up at Jay's. And
because you guys did the reveal not at Foose's shop.
No, they did actually at Jay's, yeah. So I was, if you remember Bob Sales, the guy that used to do all the tours over there. Of course. He and I were supposedly going to look at a car somewhere, so we went to have breakfast like we did a lot of times on the weekends. I think he had his nephew with him, who was in the back seat texting with the guys over here. Don't come here yet, So when we ended up coming in, they were shooting in there, which was very common.
Sure, of course.
And,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know until the guy they were saying, the kid that had worked on it, he was talking about it. He says, are you the owner? He goes, no, I'm not actually the owner. I just did a bunch of work on it. And Jay says, well, I want to talk to the owner. And then Chip and Chris were coming around behind me. I turned around and saw him. I'm like, oh no.
Come on.
This is it, really?
And you're the owner of this car?
No, I don't actually own this.
Oh, you don't actually own this?
I've just done a lot of work on it recently.
Okay, well, who owns this one? Who owns this one?
I think we know who owns it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, way.
This one's yours. No way. Remember your car? That's my car. That's your car. Holy. Congratulations, John.
Yeah, so and after that, it was just all a blur. It just happened, car got packed up at the end of the day, everything disappeared, and it was like, what happened?
Wow.
Wow. Just, I could think of a billion people more deserving than I thought than me. I'm thinking, why me? But
how cool, man. So let's talk through, because there's a lot of stuff I know for sure. One, obviously, the bumper's flushed incredible, which is such a Foose kind of signature move, I think. I would say with actually any great custom car builder, it's one of the first things you're doing. This was never like this.
No, that's all been added to scoop.
So that's to get air
Yeah, feed through the radiator up and out over the top.
Right.
Headlights are out of a 933 Porsche. And so that's the front end's been pulled back, I think, 4 inches. Wow. The lights were pulled back about another 11 inches. So if you put this next to a stock one, you start seeing all these little differences that you don't necessarily notice.
That's radical movement. So this is another one you were pointing out before, is this used to be pretty flattened out.
Yeah, that was really squared off. The top of this fender was pretty flat and square. So this has been all rounded this way. And actually you see it flows down. And then the rear scoops behind the windows, which I had some guy ask me, he says, how did you get rear windows in that car? No, it's a scoop.
Awesome.
So
and that's functional? Is that going to the brake?
That feeds the intake for the engine.
Okay.
The other side feeds an oil cooler on the other side.
Got it. Okay.
The one-off, one-of-a-kind wheels that they made just for this car, which I really like.
They're great.
I love the color. I don't like a lot of people had a problem with the bigger wheels on the older car, but I think it looks pretty good.
No, it looks cool. It's not oversized at all. It definitely fits the
doesn't look like a Hot Wheel, so.
No. This is another one, right? Where this was super flat before.
And it's been pulled out because those tires obviously are a lot wider than what would have been on there originally.
Yeah. So how did they know color-wise? Oh, because your friend Dave was involved, so he gave him ideas on colors.
Well, his son said, hey, I want to fix it up. He says, and I don't know what to do. He says, what color were you going to paint it? One time when we were up there, both up there, and I said, well, I was going to do the gold leaf team racing colors, which is basically this, but instead of the green, it would have had a gold stripe, and it wouldn't have had the stripes on the deck.
It's so cool, this graphic design on here. I love, and it's all obviously that's all paint. That's yeah. How fun is that to have that on your car?
That's kind of fun.
Chip Foose signature.
People recognize that. Yeah, like I said, I was telling your buddy here that I can be, if I'm like 10, 15 feet away from the car, nobody recognizes it. It's great. I can stand over there and listen to people talk about it.
Yeah.
But the cars, they pick it off pretty quickly.
Well, it's so, I mean,
it's different.
Well, yeah, and I think it's one of, I don't know, my opinion, it's one of the coolest cars that they ever did on that show because it's so different. This is one of those cars I kind of geek out on, you know? I mean, I've got my handful. This is one of the cars I really geek on.
It's so different from what they normally do. They do a lot of heavy iron, old, American muscle cars, which are great. Sure. But this is, even the guy in the show, I think it's Andreas, says, where do we start?
Right.
It's just so different.
And it's all fiberglass, right?
All fiberglass, except for the very small frame that's underneath. There's a T in the front, straight comes back, Y's out where the engine is, and that's it. Everything else is fiber.
Speaking of engine, can we, is it pretty easy to pop this?
Sort of.
Wow. What's the motor in there now?
This is a Toyota 2ZZ GE, so made for Lotus. So it's basically very similar to what's in a Supra, I think, but cam different, obviously, and tuned differently.
Okay.
This one's been supercharged. All the exhaust's been done by MagnaFlow. So this comes down to a muffler that's about the size of a 1-pound coffee can that I'm pretty sure is just open air in there because it's pretty noisy. Yeah. Back to the exhaust tips back here, and it's
big. I mean, your exit's big right there.
Yeah. When you wind it up to 8600, it's pretty loud.
Is that where this thing redlines is 8600?
Yeah. I've got it governed down just a hair less, so like it'll about 84.
Wow.
It soft touches at 82, and then.
But now it's also like, here, you guys get this. It's, if I remember correctly, 320 horsepower, and the car weighs 1,200 pounds.
Yep, that's about right.
I cannot wait to go for a ride in this thing, man. And so is this intercooler for the supercharger?
Yep, intercooler.
Interesting.
And it's in the back of the car, so obviously no airflow. So what I did is there's a fan on either side here that actually pulls air through it. It's all ducted in, sealed all up here. So the only thing I need to do is actually duct some cooler air to that area.
Yeah. Did they redo, because I remember you said you did suspension work on this car. Did they redo the suspension?
Yes, it's all been, this is all custom made. That's also was really cool on the show. I've seen them do tons of tucking bumpers and modify the body, but I never seen him actually do any other than bolt-on suspension work where he actually sat down on a table and laid it all out, how it was going to work.
So this is full custom?
Full custom. I didn't know he even did that, and I didn't either. And I said, wow, that was impressive. So he laid it out with basically cardboard and on a big drafting table and how it was going to move. And built
it works great,
huh? Yeah, works great. Handles like a big go-kart.
I'd imagine it does. This one really trips me out because the bumper looks so right where it's at, but it used to be here.
Yes, that's the correct spot would be up there.
Which makes sense. Obviously, this sticks out further than here,
Yeah.
so if you get rear-ended, this is getting tacoed and your bumper's gonna look great.
Exactly. Exactly. And the taillights are off of a modern Lotus Elise.
Oh, okay.
So
Very
I
cool.
used that.
How many years ago was this? This was done
This
a
was
long
done
time ago.
in, the reveal was in 2013. So
Yeah.
so we're in 6 years.
What are the seats from?
Seats are out of this car. They've just
They
been
are.
shortened down and recovered. And he was going for that 70s
Alpha,
kinda-
Dino.
Exactly.
It's
Look,
so reminiscent of
Yep.
a Dino in here.
and that's kind of what he went with. It would have had a higher headrest. It would have went almost up to the ceiling.
Yeah, yeah.
And they made a big deal in the show because I'm a little wider than I used to be. They actually widened the seats 2 inches.
Oh, got it. Full harnesses in here. And
Yep, 5-point harness.
so I noticed the screens are for you added those, right? Because
Right.
obviously there's no side view mirrors on
Yep.
the car.
Yep, and I actually like that look. It's nice and clean. So
I'm with you.
In order
I'm
to
with
see
you.
behind me and inside of me, I actually installed a couple of cameras in the back,
Which you tucked into the back where you don't
Right.
even notice them.
yeah, they're right above the taillights,
Yeah.
between the taillights.
Yeah.
And then I figured, well, I'm going to put a monitor on each side because that's where you naturally look for your mirrors anyway. So
True.
it acts like my side mirrors.
And then the gauges, you were talking about these before, and then the series of buttons that are here. A lot of that you put in yourself, correct?
Yeah, I had to have gauges obviously and some auxiliary gauges. I had the dash and the speedometer tack, and which is full of the lights, the basic dum-dum lights that come on.
Yeah.
But I wanted some actual analog gauges and some different switches, so I made that little panel in there with all the gauges and switches, and they all pretty much do something. It's got electric windows, so of course you got to have a way for the windows to go up and down. So there's switches
Yeah.
for that. There's switches for the fans, the front fans, the rear fans, the cameras starting, obviously.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Which is an interesting placement I noticed is your key is up here. So this is your just turn
That's just
ignition on,
That
off.
shuts the entire car off.
And I love the choice of the steering wheel there, by the way. I mean, it looks like it fits the hand really well.
It's actually different than the one that they put on, but
Is it?
it's a little smaller. And
Okay.
for me, I'm a little bigger, so I was trying to get a little more room.
Little
so
more
it's
room
flat
in
on the
there, yeah.
bottom. So it is. They had a Momo wheel in there. I just have a different Momo wheel, but it's
Got it.
very similar, just smaller.
It's so slick, man. I love the color choices on this car. It's so rich with the tan against the red, the black, but it's got the tan stitching. How about for brakes?
So they're all Willwood.
And what are those? Are they 4-piston? 2-piston?
These are 2 on each side.
Yeah.
4. So.
Which I suppose you don't really need more than that, right? I mean,
No,
the
the
car's
car
so
doesn't
damn
weigh
light.
anything. It stops really well.
Well, I think the only thing left to do at this point, honestly, is, man, I want to know what it's like to go for a ride in this little
All right.
thing.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Awesome. Wow, this thing goes. It sounds so good, John. What a great tone it makes, huh?
A little noisy, but it sounds good.
Yeah. God dang, this thing screams, man.
Pretty quick.
And just braking for days, huh?
Yeah.
Do you take this out into the canyons at all?
Yeah. I've had my friend almost crawl out of that seat just because he's like, but it sticks like glue.
I can imagine it would. What'd you say your red line is, 86? Or you dialed it back to 80?
I dialed it back to like 84. It'll soft touch at 82. This thing will start flashing at about 82.
Wow.
You can just see it out of the corner of your eye and then shift on here. So we run up against it. I didn't even get to it that time.
Just love the sound of this car. I mean, truth is, I've never been in one, so I don't have a comparison of what a stock one would sound like, but I gotta imagine it's nowhere in the same tone as this.
Not quite. It was a little noisy because I ran a straight header into a tip when I raced it, but not quite as bad as this.
Yeah.
And then the tone was different, of course.
What transmission is it? It's a transaxle, right?
Yeah,
in this car?
transaxle Porsche Boxster 5-speed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been made into, because this engine is made, generally it would be transverse mounted in the Elise, so they had to figure something out to make it in line.
Yeah.
So it's got a custom adapter made, a place called G-Box. Get the rev limiter.
All right, you guys, that is it for our shoot of our friend John's wonderful 71 Lotus Europa. Obviously, radically customized, amazing driver. I mean, you feel every little thing. The suspension's uber stiff on this, tons of power. I love that that sucker just revs and revs and revs forever. What a killer shoot this was today, man. I love that John brought this over for us to get to enjoy and ultimately shoot and show you guys this badass build. So as always, I say thanks for hanging and watching and supporting what we do. I truly do appreciate it. And I will see you in the next episode. All right, man, later.